So it's been a long time since I've spoken about Moza on the channel, which is quite weird when you think of it, because you've seen me using the R5, you've seen me use for a long time the Moza R16, and you might be wondering, well, what's next from Moza? There's been so many hardware releases recently from other brands, but what are Moza doing? Well, as it happens, Moza got in touch with me and said, hey, we're going to be releasing a big wheelbase, the Moza R25 Ultra True Torque DD wheelbase, I think, to give it its full name. Do you want to have a look at it and make a video? So this video is sponsored by Moza, but they haven't seen it before it goes out. They just want me to have a look at the spec sheet and see how it compares. So I've taken a look, and I'm going to be comparing this wheelbase with the Fanatec Podium DD2, the Simucube 2 Pro, the Asetek Invicta, and the Simagic Alpha Evo. I think those are the real competitive products here. Let me know in the comments if you have any other ones. And let's just briefly talk about on its own what the Moza R25 Ultra is, if I can call it that. So it's a 25 Newton meter direct drive wheelbase, which means it's Moza's most powerful wheelbase, I believe, yet. Before they've done the R16 and the R21, which both look a little bit like that, but 25 Newton meters is getting to Simucube 2 Pro territory. And the pricing, as I understand it, is going to be $899 at launch, and it's launching next month. So we'll see where that compares, but it's basically a very competitive price for that 25 Newton meters. Now, some of the features are 21-bit magnetic encoder, so you'll have seen a lot of sim racing companies go up to 21-bit. So Moza's got the 21-bit. The slew rate, this is very important, this is about responsiveness, is 10 Newton meters per millisecond, which is like insane. And I've got some stats here you're going to see as I compare it, what the other companies say are their stats. We're going to have obviously the Moza quick release, which works all the way up from the entry level ES wheel to, I think, top of the range. It's a Lamborghini wheel you can see there. They're all based on the same quick release. Also, they say it's going to be true zero cogging. So that's something I saw with Thrustmaster and the T598, where I reviewed that last year about the zero cogging, just super smooth. And they're claiming, Moza are claiming 25 Newton meters without throttling. So it's like a real sustained 25 Newton meters, they're saying. For a first for Moza, it's also going to have dual RGB strips, and they're going to have telemetry effects. Now, I've seen this before with Asetek on the Asetek Forte base I've been using, also on the Invicta. So, for example, when you're going into the ABS, it will come off. If there's a yellow light, it will show yellow, things like that. So it's interesting Moza are adding that as well. And there's also going to be a new force feedback algorithm. Let's get into the comparison. Okay, so remember, 25 Newton meters with those flavors of it I've just told you about for $899. So let's start with the Moza R16, because that's what I have already and I'm pretty well placed to compare them. So this is about $650, I believe, at the moment, for 16 Newton meters of peak torque. Now, what's interesting, that means if you pay $150 more for the Moza R25 Ultra, you're getting 9 Newton meters more, which is quite a significant amount more, I would say. So you can see how the price per Newton meter is kind of working here. Now, the next competitor I want to get to is the Fanatec Podium DD2. Now, this is Fanatec. We know you normally pay a bit of a premium with Fanatec, and the Podium DD2 is right at the top of what Fanatec do. So this is $1,599, and it's up to 25 Newton meters peak. So there'll be a bit of a debate here, and we'll have to see, because Moza are saying that they're going to sustain 25 Newton meters. Fanatec they say it's a peak 25 Newton meters. But in any event, it's almost double the price. It's a bit less than double, but it's kind of, you're getting close to double the price. It's a 16-bit encoder, which again I think reflects the older nature of the Fanatec Podium DD2, which is an older wheelbase. You also have the QR situation with Fanatec that's a bit confusing. Do you want to marry that with the highest end QRs that Fanatec do, which you pay a premium for? Because Fanatec at the moment is using QR1s, QR2 lights, and then those gold QR2 ones as well. So that's a Fanatec one. Now, Fanatec, you're going to have a different ecosystem of rims, different choices, but if you compare the Fanatec ecosystem of rims and the Moza ecosystem of rims, I do think most people would say that the Moza ecosystem is better. Let me know what you think about that. You're talking KS, GS, FSR2, you've got the Vision GS as well, then you've got the Lamborghini wheel, and then coming out we've got the Porsche wheel, 2 Porsche wheels now, and the Lamborghini Revuto wheel. So there's a very strong ecosystem of wheels in Moza. I would say probably a bit better than Fanatec, but that's a bit subjective. Okay, the next comparison I want to get onto, and I want to hear all your thoughts in the comments, by the way, is the Simucube 2 Pro. I actually have a Simucube 2 Pro right down here on the floor. So that is about $1,500. The pricing is changing at the moment because of tariffs and everything, but so it will fluctuate. But about $1,500 for 25 Newton meters. I feel like everyone pretty much knows that. Simucube 2 Pro, 25 Newton meters is kind of the standard. It's a long-standing base in the industry. It's just people know what it is. They know what it's about. But then again, on price, the Moza, I can see what they're doing. The Moza R25 Ultra is, again, not quite double, but you're adding hundreds and hundreds and $100 of price on top. And that might be for perceived Simucube stuff like software, reliability, but there is certainly a premium that Simucube are charging them now compared to what else is going to be on the market when Moza come on. That has a 22-bit encoder, and it has a slew rate of 8 Newton meters per millisecond. So that's 20% less than the Moza. We'll have to test it and see how that turns out. On the face of it, it's 20% less, but we'll have to see just how important it is. But slew rate, when I went over to SimLab and I was actually comparing the new unreleased SimLab against the Simucube 2 Pro, I spent a lot of time thinking about slew rate and catching slides and that responsiveness, taking the damper off and feeling that. So that's a slew rate as well. But this is a Simucube 2 Pro. It does have the Simucube tuner software, but you can see that the pricing is much higher. Now the Asetek Invicta, let's see what goes on here. So for the first time in this comparison, we have a stronger wheelbase than the Moza R25 Ultra. So it's 27 Newton meters. So it's 2 Newton meters higher. But the price again is $1,349 or there or thereabouts. So we have a 22-bit encoder. We have 9.4 Newton meters per millisecond of slew rate. So basically the same as the Moza. The Moza is slightly higher, but basically the same. And we have 2 Newton meters more torque. But again, we're paying about $500 more than the Moza. So it seems to me that the Moza R25 Ultra on the spec sheet is offering this 25. It's like you get to 25. Now for me, if I'm using 25, I'm turning that straight down to 50% in the software, by the way. And that's for any of these wheelbases. I'm turning them down to 50 because I don't want to rip my arms off. I was just karting yesterday. I was doing pro karting in a charity. I was a pro team, which is quite interesting. And my arms are feeling it today. So I don't need that in a direct drive wheelbase to run it there. But if you run it at 50, you've got loads of headroom. You're not going to be clipping. The wheelbase is dealing with it easier. So that's kind of how I run my wheelbases like that. So it's good to have a higher Newton meter wheelbase because then you can run it at something like 50, not clip. For example, my Logitech RS50, I'm running that 8 Newton meters. So there's dangers there of clipping, etc. Right, so that's the Asetek Invicta. The last one I'm going to compare here, and then we'll talk about some interesting things, is a Simagic Alpha Evo. So I know a lot of people want me to compare this with Simagic. So this is an 18 Newton meter wheelbase. So we are losing 7 Newton meters, which is quite a lot. However, I believe it is cheaper. I believe it's $699, so about $200 cheaper. 21-bit encoder, and I don't actually know what the slew rate is. So I don't know what the slew rate is on the Simagic. Now Simagic, I have to say, I don't really know what's going on with Simagic at the moment because Tyler Wang, who I interviewed, spent a lot of time with, who was responsible for a lot of the cool things coming through the Simagic ecosystem, like the Zeus line of wheels and modular dashes. He left Simagic and he's gone to Conspit. So I don't know what's going on with Simagic, and there was also some issues about a firmware update. However, on paper, on the spec sheet, we're looking at 7 Newton meters less for $200 less. Now, I do wonder whether 18 Newton meters just isn't quite going to feel like this top level of premium wheelbase, Simucube 2 Pro, Asetek Invicta, and maybe the Moza R25 Ultra is going to be there. So I just wonder if the Alpha Evo, especially as the range starts a lot lower, that's kind of getting to the limits of its range. But that's just specs. That's just all down on paper. So what I think is really important for Moza is that this product, they already have the M Booster active pedal, which is it's a second active pedal on the market after Simucube. So that is sitting there undeniably at a premium level. They also have super premium wheels, like the Lamborghini Essenza wheel is insane. I went to Jerez, I looked at the actual Lamborghini Essenza, and the wheel is the same inside the car and one I've got there. To me, it looks like anyway. And the final thing missing from that Moza ecosystem, I think, is that ultimate 25 Nm wheelbase that goes toe to toe with the Simucube 2 Pro. And what's going to be interesting here, and this is, if you've got this far in the video, leave a Lapple emoji in the comments. I think it's a really interesting point. When Moza comes to the party, like they did with the R5, like they did with the R3, prices of competitors need to come down to match them. Fanatec knows this very well because Moza came in the early 2020s and stole a lot of Fanatec's lunch, to be honest. So when Moza come in at this R25 Ultra, that's going to put pressure on Simucube, on Asetek, because they might not be able to charge that premium. Because when you look at it on paper, you might go, okay, well, the Simucube software is really nice, but am I going to pay $600 more for the same Newton meter? And there might be not a lot of people who are going to do that, but you let me know in the comments. So Moza coming to the party, generally I think is a good thing for sim racing because they keep the prices low for the feature set and the competition has to compete with it. And you can compete on price or you can compete in different ways. For example, Simucube now does a cheaper active pedal. Moza's in the market in the M Booster. So I hope that's an interesting point that makes us think about what it means to have Moza in here. And hopefully I'm going to be hands-on with the R25 Ultra very soon. So let me know what you want to see in that review. If there's anything in this video you're like, oh, you didn't talk about that, you didn't cover that, just put it in the comments and ask me to cover it in the review and I'll do that. And a big thanks to Moza for sponsoring this kind of spec look, which is interesting. I want to do this more actually. Look at the paper, look at the facts, and then we can assess it in the hand. I'll see you in the next video.